This is a record of a sailing trip, probably several trips all put together. These are some young guys I picked up in Sarasota, Eric, and I don't know who the bearded kid was. Maybe it was Jeff, I'm not too sure. This was 25 years ago. And we went on a trip north. Basically, we were headed up to the Cape Hatteras area, you know. That's a kid named Fred. We picked him up in South Carolina, who we had met the year before. And this is just a very quick kind of record of the ports we passed through. And I don't know what, this is somewhere in the Carolinas, I guess, at this stage. We travel kind of fast, and then we're offshore somewhere here or in a very large bay. I really don't remember, but these trips took, to go from Sarasota up to around the Cape Hatteras area, Cape Fear, where I met my partner Chuck. Here we're out on the Atlantic at this stage of the game. This is back at the sailing squadron. These are all mixed up when we were setting the boat up for another trip, in which I went with Pete Larkin. There's another areas right there, and we took off in the middle of a race that was taking place on Sarasota Bay off the sailing squadron, and then went south, and then we went across the ditch, which is the canal that goes right across from Fort Myers over to Stewart. This is just part of the downhill leg. I remember this trip because Pete's eyes weren't too good. We got caught at night in the entrance on the Caloosahatchee River, and it was a huge tugging back of us with a barge really barreling down. We had our motor going and all our sails up, and we weren't going to outrace it. There's Pete now. This is way before that happened. And then I asked Pete to find out what the depths were on the map. You know, the stuff is always harem scarum. Here's part of the ditch. This was the nice safe part the next day. And Pete says, I can't see. I said, oh my God. Anyway, we got off to the side without going aground, and then we let the barge pass. And this is the little trip that you go through when you go through the canal. It's very eerie. It's all farmland. And you just kind of, cruise along. Sometimes the ditch is big, sometimes small. This is around La Belle. This is about halfway through. They had a general store there, and where you caught the bus and sent telegrams. This is back in 82, 81, This is the locks that they have at Clewiston that open for you. And of course, we forgot to loosen our boat up as the water dropped on the other side. Anyway, we figured it out eventually. And we had a little sunshade up. The sun. This was going north in the springtime. It's pretty hot in Florida. And then we're finally kind of getting set to bust out around Stewart at this stage, and we're out basically in the Atlantic again. And we'll be heading north towards Daytona Beach, where we generally picked up some other guys. We sometimes were in, sometimes out. The boat went pretty fast, as you can see. This is some more of the inland waterways. This is kind of going north, as you can see. And this is the kind of harem scarum part of Florida on Indian River that at the time was really run down. This kind of switches to a trip. I guess we picked up Dave Bridges on the other side, and we headed up. We got Bill Isley on this and some other folks. We headed into St. Augustine, and on the way we ran into a guy who was running coke. He had a couple of Canadian hookers with him, and so that trip was highly memorable. I think it's somewhere around Georgia now with Dave. We're just kind of sailing along. We had some pretty speedy runs here going on. I forget which town it was, but we pulled in for some food. We picked up Bobby Kay, I think, in Daytona Beach, and we picked up Bill Isley too. And Bobby's always trying to fish because we're going much too fast for fish, but he's like a crazy fisherman. And I think at this stage we had started to, we're we're heading north or south of this stage game. I think we're heading south at this stage of the game. We were trying to wind up down around Fort Lauderdale, where we eventually got down. I remember that it was pretty windy even on the waterway. And we eventually wound up in Miami, although that's not shown on here because we came in late at night. It was an incredible trip trying to get the Miami guys. Well, here's Fort Lauderdale because we're passing through Fort Lauderdale on our way to Miami with all the gangsters' houses and big yachts and everything. We got to Miami in the dead of night. Nobody had opened the bridges. We had to go out to the Atlantic and back in and finally call up my cousin Richie. He put us up in his one-bedroom apartment, all six of us. So this is the port at Lauderdale as we're coming through. These trips took, I would say, my best remembrance is about 3 to 4 weeks between the Carolinas and between Hill finally off the dock. We're back at the sailing squadron. I don't know what's going on here. This is another trip that we took out. I think this is a trip, let's see where the hell we're going here. Well, we're out on the Atlantic, that's for sure, and we're moving at some pretty good speeds. We had a couple of young guys with us, and in fact, the young guys were great because they'd do anything you told them. You know, I'd meet them, and we just get. There's my son JD. This is just kind of just sailing in the bay. And there's like Pauline there, and I think we're just getting in some sailing and some laying in the sun here. But the young guys were great, except for my son JD. He wouldn't do anything, but the other kids would climb up the mast and then fix the sails and stuff. It really saved our lives sometimes when we were out very, very, very deep in the Atlantic, and at night, you know, you needed some kids who were crazy strong to climb up the mast. We had a bosun's chair and everything to bring them back up, but it was scary because you'd be running at the 20 knots of wind and the boat would be bucking and you're trying to hang on and fix some twisted spinnakers. So some of those young kids like that we kind of saw in the beginning were great for these trips. Anyway, here's JD's coming back in, and I guess we went on a little winter trip. This is in Florida, although we were pretty well bundled up because once you're out in the water, you know, a little wind chill, it's tough. So we had all that kind of cold weather gear. That's the boat when we first brought her down. I can tell by it has a float on top, and we're not sailing here with Stanley and old Stanley Glenn and myself and there's Vicky Sullivan. Stanley loved this boat. He loved to be out on it. Paul Erdman, there's a little dolphin alongside of us, and